Are you ready for a video with the most facts in the entire world? Oh, well, I can't actually verify that, but this is a freaking lot of facts. So get ready to learn some stuff. Dogs have 3 eyelids, including one that helps keep their eyes lubricated and protected. Dogs are actually one of the few species that do have this 3rd eyelid, which is also known as the nictitating membrane. This thin, translucent membrane can be seen in the inner corner of a dog's eye and helps protect and lubricate the eye by blinking horizontally across the surface. It also helps remove debris and protect the eye from damage while the dog is running or playing in rough terrain. Did you know that it's impossible to hum while holding your nose? This strange fact has to do with the way that sound vibrations travel through the body. When you hum, the sound waves are actually created by the vibration of your vocal cords and travel through your nasal passages and out through your nose. When you hold your nose, the air can't escape and the sound vibrations can't travel through the nasal passages, which makes it impossible to hum. The shortest war in history was between Britain and Zanzibar in the year of 1896, and it lasted 38 minutes. On August 27, 1896, the British declared war on the island of Zanzibar, which was ruled by Sultan Khalid bin Bargash. The Sultan had refused to step down and instead barricaded himself in his palace with his soldiers. The British responded by bombarding the palace with their navy, and after just 38 minutes, the Sultan surrendered. And this was the shortest war in history. The longest word in the English language has 189,819 letters, and it's actually the chemical name for a protein called titin. Titin is a giant protein found in the muscle tissue that contains more than 38,000 amino acids. The chemical name for this protein includes the names of all of those amino acids because that's what science does sometimes. And it actually takes over 3 hours to pronounce this word in its entirety. So I'll just start trying with the first part. Methionyl threonylglutamine elarginal isoleucine. Yep, that was it. There are more possible iterations of a game of chess than there are atoms in the universe. The game of chess has been played for centuries, and the number of possible ways to play is mind-bogglingly large. In fact, the number of possible ways to play a game is estimated to be 10 to the power of 120, larger than the number of atoms in the known universe. In 1986, a man named Dan Rather survived an attack by a man who kept repeating, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" That phrase has since become a cultural reference. The incident sparked widespread media coverage and speculation about the attacker's motives. The phrase has since become a cultural reference and has been used in music, television, and films. The world's oldest piece of chewing gum is over 9,000 years old. Archaeologists uncovered this world's oldest piece of chewing gum in Sweden, made from birch bark tar. The gum was likely chewed to relieve toothaches or simply for enjoyment. The tallest tree ever recorded was a coast redwood in California that measured a staggering 379.7 feet tall. These trees are native to the west coast of North America and the tallest trees in the world. They can grow to be over 2,000 years old and have a unique ability to regenerate their bark, making them resistant to fire and disease. The shortest commercially sold song is actually known as PPAP, or Pen, Pineapple, Apple, Pen, by Pico Taro, and it's just 45 seconds long. The song was released in 2016 and quickly became an internet sensation. Its catchy tune and absurd lyrics made it a viral hit, and it's since been streamed millions of times on various platforms. Did you know that astronauts can grow up to 2 inches taller while spending extended periods of time in space, largely due to their lack of gravity? This phenomenon is known as a spinal elongation and occurs because the spine no longer has to support the weight of the body in the absence of gravity. However, the effect is temporary, and once astronauts return to Earth, they shrink back down and return to their normal height. The top of the Eiffel Tower in Paris leans away from the sun, Because as metal is heated by the sun, it leans about 7 inches away. The tower was completed in 1889 and became a symbol in Paris and France. The metal structure was designed to expand and do exactly this. As the side closest to the sun gets hotter, the metal expands, tilting the tower 7 inches away. OMG! The first recorded instance of that was actually in 1917. It was used in a letter that was traced back to this year. The term, as you likely know, has become widely used thanks to text communication today, but people back then were apparently using it too. A group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. So, now you know that. The world's largest snowflake on record measured 15 inches wide and 8 inches thick. It fell in Montana in 1887. These snowflakes were formed when water vapor freezes in the atmosphere, and it got so big in an intense blizzard. The world's largest grand piano was built by a 15-year-old in New Zealand after 2,000 hours of work and 40,000 individual pieces. The piano is over 18 feet long and has 85 keys, making it one of the largest instruments of any kind in the world. The kid who built it, Adrian Mann, is actually now a professional piano tuner and technician. The longest wedding veil on record was longer than 63 football fields and measured over 22,000 feet long. The veil was worn by a bride in Cyprus in 2018 and was designed to break the Guinness World Record for the longest wedding veil. And it did just that. It was made from tulle and took over 10 seamstresses to create. The oldest person to ever live was Jean Calment of France, who lived to be 122 years and 164 days old. Calment was born in 1875 and lived through 2 world wars, the invention of the automobile, the television, and the telephone. She attributed her long life to a diet rich in olive oil, a love of laughter, and a glass of port wine every single day. A group of hedgehogs is actually called a prickle, which is a fitting name given their spiky exterior. These small, adorable, nocturnal animals are actually native to Europe, Asia, and Africa, and they can curl up into a spiky ball for protection. They're a popular pet, but now if you have more than one of them together, you can call them a prickle and not be wrong. The world's largest snow maze was actually built in Canada in 2019, measuring over 30,000 square feet. The maze was created by a team of designers and builders using over 300 truckloads of snow. The intricate design featured twisting corridors and dead ends, challenging visitors to navigate their way to the center. The maze was a popular attraction during the winter season, drawing visitors from all over the world. Thomas Hargrove, a homicide archivist, estimates that there are over 2,000 serial killers at large right now. According to his records, there's about 27,000 murders that aren't even in FBI files. It's widely believed that your hearing is the last sense that you lose when you die. Studies show that patients that are comatose might still be able to hear. In the Middle Ages, people actually used to eat mummies for medicinal purposes, and this is actually why we don't have a lot of mummies left today. In the United States, about 1 in 50 people have a brain aneurysm that just hasn't ruptured. That's about 6.5 million people, and a brain aneurysm in the US ruptures about every 18 minutes. You know your refrigerator? It's actually magnetic because kids used to die inside of them. Before about 1956, refrigerators had latches and could only be opened from the outside, resulting in kids getting stuck inside. There was a 28-year-old man named Artyom Sidorkin who inhaled a seed of a fir tree, which subsequently sprouted and grew in his lungs. The doctors, when investigating, thought he actually had cancer, but made the discovery that he just had a forest growing in his lungs. Syphilis, if left untreated, changes people to look like zombies. During the Renaissance period, many untreated people with syphilis used to wander through the streets looking a little bit like a zombie apocalypse. There are about 40 supervolcanoes around the world that could take about 1 billion lives each, and we're about 24,000 years overdue for an eruption, according to scientists. One of the supervolcanoes is in a very famous place, Yellowstone National Park. Its magma chamber could fit the entire city of Tokyo inside of it. A book written about 14 years before the sinking of the Titanic may have actually predicted the sinking of the ship. The book, titled The Wreck of the Titan, was about an unsinkable ship that was hit by an iceberg. The Titan also, coincidentally, had a shortage of lifeboats, just like the Titanic. Microplastics have gotten so bad that the average person consumes the equivalent of a Lego brick's worth of microplastic every single month. Scientists have researched and predicted that a body submerged in deep water actually becomes a skeleton in only about 4 days. This is largely due to a little critter called amphipods, which have been seen devouring carcasses through their studies. Blue whales have veins large enough that humans could swim through them. Flies are a typical nuisance, but aside from being a little bit gross, they don't really get under your skin. That is, except for botflies, which are a type of insect whose larvae burrow under your skin, and when they do that, you can actually see them moving around underneath the flesh. In the 17th century, people were buried alive so often that they actually started building safety coffins. These were coffins that had bells with a string attached to them, so if you woke up in a coffin and were buried alive, you could just pull the string and it would ring a bell on the surface and people would know, oh, I need to dig this person up. Every single day, you swallow about 1 to 2 cups of mucus. That is roughly equivalent to 22 US gallons each year. Everyone's favorite party gas, helium, which makes up about 24% of our entire universe, is actually non-renewable. We have no way of creating it, and we're running out of it because every time we use it and lose it, it keeps escaping out of our atmosphere. Right now, the number of dead people in the world outnumber the living 15 to 1. That's actually down from the year 1968, where the dead outnumbered the living roughly 29 to 1. There's a cat named Oscar who seems to have the ability to predict people's deaths. The cat actually works in hospice care and seems to have the ability to sense who will soon pass and provide them comfort. So if you're visited by Oscar in hospice care, it might be your time. The world's deadliest tsunami was actually in the Indian Ocean in 2004. According to the US Geological Survey, who studied the tsunami after the fact, the energy released was equivalent to 23,000 atomic bombs like the ones dropped on Hiroshima. In the United States, there are actually more vacant homes than there are homeless people. Everyone romanticizes the city of Paris, but underneath the historic city, there's roughly 60 million people buried from the bubonic plague. Over 50% of commercial pilots have admitted to falling asleep while flying a plane. The number of deaths in the US that are attributed to medical errors are as high as 100,000 people per year. That's essentially equivalent to a 737 airplane crashing and killing everyone every day. During World War II, Japan actually bombed China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague. You know your birthday? You're actually more likely to die on that day than any other day, with a 6.7% chance that you will die on your birthday. Did you know that if you murder someone, it's actually pretty likely that you're going to get away with it? That's right, about 40% of US murders go unsolved. There's something known as arithmetic death syndrome, and that's when someone who appears to be in healthy condition just dies for no reason. Every picture you pose for could actually be the one that's used for your obituary. You know the chainsaw, the very useful thing we use to cut down trees? Well, it was actually invented by 2 Scottish surgeons, originally to assist in childbirth. There's a jellyfish known as the Turritorpus dorni, and it's officially known as an immortal creature because it's never been observed to die. There's a different version of you that exists in the minds of everyone that knows you. Look up at the sky right now. You see the sun? It may have actually exploded, and we wouldn't actually know for about 8 minutes because that's how long it takes light to reach the Earth. Up until the 1980s, babies used to be operated on without anesthesia because doctors believed they couldn't feel pain until they were about 15 months old. In ancient Rome, they used the crushed brains of mice for toothpaste. There's a frog known as the golden poison dart frog that's the size of a paperclip, very cute, and if you touch it, you will die. In fact, just one frog has enough poison to kill 10 to 15 people. You could have an unruptured brain aneurysm right now and not be aware of it, and it could rupture at any time. If you have a dog, you probably think it's pretty cute when they're playing with their squeaky toy. But this is actually because dogs like the sound of squeaking because it sounds like those emitted by small prey when they're about to die. If you've ever ridden the subway, about 15% of the air that you breathe while in there is actually human skin. According to the FDA, about 10 insects and 35 fruit fly eggs are allowed per 8 ounces of raisins. They also allow about 1 pound of peanut butter to contain 150 bug fragments or 5 rodent hairs. In about 7 hours, an elephant produces enough poop to outweigh most adult humans. You know the lottery? The chance of you dying on the way to get your lottery tickets is actually significantly greater than you winning the lottery, so maybe think twice. There are more vacant houses in the United States than there are homeless people. Are you under the age of 21? Well, good news. Your happiness is probably going to peak at about 21. After that, it doesn't peak again until you retire. Bad news if you've already passed 21. In the Stone Age, people would kill a bear and then rip open its stomach to eat the meal the bear ate before it was killed. Did you know that some tumors can actually grow teeth, eyes, and hair? That's pretty neat. And your eyelashes, those actually have thousands of tiny mites living on them that only live in that region. And finally, in the 1800s, dentures were made out of real teeth of dead people. Cool. There are more trees on Earth than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Cleopatra lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. The average person walks the equivalent of 5 times around the world in their lifetime. Honey never spoils. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still perfectly edible. Humans share about 60% of their DNA with bananas. Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth, is still growing by approximately 4 millimeters each year. The total weight of all of the ants on Earth is approximately equal to the total weight of all humans. A teaspoonful of a neutron star weighs about 6 billion tons. The human brain is capable of storing the equivalent of 2.5 petabytes of information, which is roughly equivalent to 3 million hours of TV shows. Octopuses have 3 hearts. There are more possible combinations of a standard deck of 52 playing cards than there are atoms on Earth. The world's quietest room, an anechoic chamber at Orfield Laboratories in Minnesota, is so quiet that you can hear your own blood flowing and even experience hallucinations. The longest recorded flight of a chicken is 13 seconds. The average person spends 6 months of their life waiting for red traffic lights to turn green. There are more tigers privately owned in Texas than there are in the wild worldwide. The total weight of all termites on Earth is greater than the weight of all humans combined. There is a jellyfish species that is biologically immortal, and it can revert its cells back to their earliest form to avoid death. The probability of shuffling a standard deck of cards into a completely unique order is virtually guaranteed. In fact, it's very likely that no deck of cards has ever been in the same order before. In 2006, a Coca-Cola employee offered to sell Coca-Cola's secret recipe to Pepsi. Pepsi responded by notifying Coca-Cola. The deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench, is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. The total weight of all bacteria in your body is around 4 pounds. It takes a photon, a particle of light, approximately 40,000 years to travel from the core of the sun to its surface, but only about 8 minutes to travel from the sun to Earth. A crocodile cannot stick its tongue out. The speed of a computer mouse is measured in a unit called Mickeys. The world's smallest mammal, the bumblebee bat, weighs less than a penny. There is a species of fungus that can control the minds of ants and force them to the top of plants where the fungus can then grow and spread its spores at the highest possible point. A day on the planet of Venus is longer than a year. It takes Venus 243 Earth days to rotate on its axis, but only 225 Earth days to orbit the sun. There's a town in Norway called Hell, and it actually freezes over quite regularly during winter. The world's largest volcano, Mauna Loa in Hawaii, is so big that you could fit the entire island of Manhattan inside of it. The coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was negative 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 89.2 degrees Celsius, which was recorded in Antarctica. The average person will spend about 25 years of their life sleeping. The world's largest living structure, the Great Barrier Reef, can be seen from outer space. It's also the world's largest living structure. The world's oldest known living organism is a 5,000-year-old bristlecone pine tree in California. Honeybees can actually recognize human faces. The driest place on Earth, the Atacama Desert in Chile, experienced a 400-year-long drought from 1570 to 1971. The human eye can distinguish about 10 million different colors. The longest recorded flight of a paper airplane was over 27.6 seconds. The average person produces enough saliva, or spit, in their lifetime to fill 2 swimming pools. The world's largest flower, the Rafflesia arnoldi, can grow up to 3 feet in diameter and weigh up to 24 pounds. The fastest animal on Earth, the peregrine falcon, can reach speeds of over 240 miles per hour, 386 kilometers per hour, when it's diving to catch its prey in the water. The world's oldest ocean, the Pacific Ocean, covers more area than all of Earth's land combined. The longest recorded distance swam by a human without stopping is 225 kilometers, or 139.8 miles. The smallest bone in your body is the stapes bone in the human ear, measuring only 2.8 millimeters. The world's oldest known recipe is a beer recipe from ancient Sumeria, dating back to around 1800 BC. The deepest living fish ever recorded was found at a depth of 26,722 feet, or 8,100 meters, in the Mariana Trench. The total length of blood vessels in your body, if laid end to end, would circle the Earth about 2.5 times. The average human heart beats about 100,000 times per day, pumping about 2,000 gallons of blood, or 7,500 liters. The largest known single-celled organism, called Syringamina fragilissima, can grow up to 4 inches in diameter. And finally, the world's largest living bird, otherwise known as the ostrich, can run at speeds of up to 43 miles per hour, or 70 kilometers per hour.